Furthermore, the first Conference of Hope in support of universal human rights and religious freedom was an occasion that transcended political, religious, racial, and ideological differences. As a result, hearts and minds from across the globe came together to promote peace and unity based on the values of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. By confronting the truth, we seek to protect universal human rights.
The future of religion will now largely be decided by what will happen in Japan. Will it be a future of persecution or a future of liberty? Will it be a future of glory or a future of shame? Well, we are here to answer today. We are here to prevent the three ideologies from imposing their answer.
Peace is a product of justice. Our modern understanding of justice is based on respect for fundamental human rights. It is interesting to note that Marx and Lenin, who hated religion and called it the opium of the people, created their own religion. They created a new ideology that was aggressive and oppressive in nature. Communist and totalitarian dictators such as Hitler and Stalin suppressed freedom of religion and belief. Our purpose in gathering here is to protect universal values from being undermined by false ideologies. If we all continue pushing forward together without giving up, freedom based on universal human rights will eventually spread throughout the world. Peace-loving followers and the highest experts in politics, economics, media, academia, religion, culture, and arts, and global leaders taking part today live and online. Good morning. I am your MC for today's Conference for Hope of the Realization of a Heavenly Unified World, announcer Choi Ji-sun. The reason why I came up on stage with children is because we hope today serves as an opportunity to reflect on our reality and our hopeful future for our next generation, our children. And in that perspective, the second conference is held under the theme Thought Centered Around Universal Human Rights and Religious Freedom. Today's conference is hosted by Think Tank 2022 and the IAPP and organized by the Washington Times. And I would like to express my deepest gratitude to leaders around the world attending the event online and on-site. As protectors of peace, transcending tangible and intangible boundaries, and as builders of peace, thank you all for coming together to this event aiming towards universal human rights and freedom of religion. Let us welcome ourselves with a big round of applause. Today's event will be a very important event as we gather the important dialogue in our journey towards achieving permanent peaceful world, which is freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Universal human rights, freedom of thought, and religion are a crucial foundation in the path towards permanent peace. Now let us open the second Conference of Hope for a Heavenly Unified World with a big round of applause.
Beloved peace-loving leaders, peace associates, today we are in Korea, and today the temperature was minus 13 degrees. The weather is particularly cold, and even though you are busy, I'm really grateful and happy to welcome you all to the second Conference of Hope for the Realization of a Heavenly Unified World. Today's Conference of Hope is taking place at the HJ Cultural Hall, and we have about 800 people participating, as well as participants from about 100 nations joining live and also through various broadcasts, national and private. Today's conference is co-hosted by the Think Tank 2022, Washington Times, and the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. Furthermore, we have 500 parliamentarians, current parliamentarians, who are participating here with us today. Let us welcome everyone with a warm round of applause. Please look to the person to your left, to your right, around you, and let us send them a warm round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Respected peace-loving leaders, right now, as the world witnesses, the world is still suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a lot of difficulties in the realms of the economy, politics, and also even in terms of development, the nations are going towards nationalism instead of cooperation. They're going towards conflict and discord. The Universal Peace Federation has launched different associations, pillars: the International Summit Council for Peace, International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, International Interreligious Association for Peace and Development, and various other associations, and together they've come to launch Think Tank 2022. Under the auspices of Think Tank 2022, the World Summit, think tank forums, as well as various other peace projects have been initiated around the world. Various visions have been provided so that peace-loving citizens can come together and work to advance the cause of lasting peace around the world. In particular, in February of this year, 157 nations with diplomatic ties to North and South Korea sent representatives to Korea, and 2022 VIPs gathered in Korea, and they adopted a resolution, the World Summit 2022 resolution, that advocated for one peninsula, one culture, and one people. And this has been expanded into a peace charter that is being considered for adoption as legislation in various nations of the world. When we look at the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and also the missile provocations from North Korea, as well as the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we can see that the United Nations really has its hands full, and there is a call for renewal of the UN along values and centering on the Universal Peace Charter through mobilizing thought, media, politics, economy, and various other realms of civil society. Various rallies of hope were held to provide solutions from a macro perspective on the various challenges afflicting today's world. In particular, today we are discussing on the issue of freedom of religion, freedom of thought, and overcoming the threat of communism. Respected leaders from around the world, Aristotle spoke that the individual discovers a true humanhood through community. Human beings are political entities, and therefore human beings flourish when they are part of one community. And therefore, when they are part of a praxis, they can discover their true self and grow into true human beings. And a community consisting of true individuals becomes an ideal, harmonious society, and more than just one person's personal ideology. Through discussion and healthy engagement, we can participation. I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to end my welcoming remarks here. Thank you very much.
Greetings, distinguished guests from many nations and every continent who are gathered here for this Conference of Hope. I want to commend Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon for her leadership and outstanding work for peace and religious freedom for all. The first and most foundational freedom from which all others are derived is the freedom to worship God as one sees fit. All freedom-loving nations uphold this freedom as essential to not only the principles of democracy, but also the emotional well-being of its citizens. Freedom of religion can never be taken for granted. It must always be defended and looked after. There are always forces that will try to compromise this freedom, that will try to place themselves between us and our Creator. Shortly, we will hear from some of the great leaders and scholars of our time. These are men and women of great wisdom and courage who have come to declare their commitment to our right to the free expression of faith by all people. Your participation in this conference is essential because what is most important is that we give voice to these ideals and that we do so as a community of all the faith traditions. When Reverend and Mrs. Moon first began their work in the 1950s, the single biggest threat to freedom of worship came from the communist governments who institutionalized atheism as government policy. Therefore, the first order of business was to examine Marxism-Leninism and the rationale and the methods and develop an unstoppable critique and counter-proposal to that ideology. We invite everyone to join us in this Conference of Hope for all humankind. Wherever you are, whatever your nation or language, you are a divine son or daughter of the same God. Let us all be joyful in that realization. Welcome to all of you.
Good morning. I am Tae Ho, a member of the National Assembly of South Korea. I'm very honored to deliver the congratulatory address today at the second Conference of Hope for a Heavenly Unified World, with the theme of freedom of religion and thought centered on universal human rights. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to the Think Tank 2022 Organizing Committee and the leaders and participants of the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace who are supporting peace on the Korean Peninsula.
UDF의 창설자이신
I would also like to express my deepest respect and gratitude to Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon, the founder of UPF, as well as former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former U.S. House Speaker Newt Gingrich,
막시모
Chairman of Censner Massimo Introving, IAPP co-chair Dan Burton, and the chair of Think Tank 2022 Promotion Committee Yoon Young-ho.
모든 분들께 깊은 존경과 감사의 마음을 전합니다. 존경하는 내외
Distinguished guests and fellow citizens, what is truly
북한의
regrettable is that North Korea is still not free in any of the rights of politics, religion, conscience, thought, and freedom.
이러한 시기에
As one of the representatives of the Republic of Korea, I actively support the fact that politicians and intellectuals all over the world in solidarity with Think Tank 2022 support the universal right to freedom of thought, human rights, conscience, and religion, and promote the Conference of Hope today. I hope that today's Conference of Hope will be an opportunity for political, economic, social, cultural, religious, and NGO leaders and citizens around the world to participate in sincere realization of peace. Thank you.
Today's Conference of Hope really touches on one of the most important topics, which is freedom of religion. It shows the importance of religion and human rights. In 1948, on December 10, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted, and Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights mentions as wholly the religious freedom of citizens. No nations can exist without religion or human rights.
Let us tour the paths of peace and achieve divisions. This must begin with a laudable idea that can overcome the divisions of our current world. People-to-people connections through different religions, races, or beliefs must set a key foundation for peace in families, communities, and the nations.
To congratulate Dr. Moon, UPF, and IAPP on the occasion of the second Conference of Hope. Thank you for the great work that you are doing towards religious freedom. May you be blessed. Thank you so much.
I take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Moon, or famously known as Mother Moon, the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, the IAPP, the Washington Times Foundation on the occasion of the second conference on the value of hope about religious freedoms, and we are very supportive of your efforts.
Wish you great success in your important work for religious freedom, peace and harmony. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste from Nepal. Freedom and peace are the two sides of a coin.
Greetings from Asia Pacific. Freedom of thought, conscience and religion is very important for peaceful and democratic society. On behalf of the IAPP Asia Pacific, along with over 1,000 elected lawmakers from 40 nations, we would like to congratulate True Mother Moon, for hosting second Conference of Hope. Congratulations.
On behalf of the Association of First Ladies for Peace, I would like to congratulate Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, the Mother of Peace, on hosting the second Conference of Hope for the realization of a heavenly unified world.
To Dr. Moon on this Conference of Hope, and thank you for your efforts on behalf of religious freedom and a peaceful world for each and every one of us.
Now let us begin our first session. Under the theme of universal human rights and religious freedom, there will be a special speech and a keynote speech in the first session. First, our special speech will be delivered by Mike Pompeo, the 70th U.S. Secretary of State. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo served as a representative from 2011 to 2017. He also served under President Trump as Director of CIA and U.S. Secretary of State, showing strong support for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Please welcome former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo with a big round of applause.
Thank you for the very kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be addressing you today for this Conference of Hope. I've had the opportunity to speak both for the World Summit last February as well as Think Tank 2022 Global Forum. It was incredible to work with so many experts and leaders on securing peace and freedom in Asia. At the World Summit in particular, it was tremendous to see nations from around the world together working towards peace on shared issues. I'm deeply grateful to the Universal Peace Federation and to the Washington Times Foundation for convening these summits where peace can be pursued. I also want to sincerely commend Dr. Moon for her leadership and for her lifelong commitment to peace. Dr. Moon is inspiring having escaped from North Korea with her Christian mother and grandmother following the communist takeover in 1948. She has diligently pursued peace with North Korea ever since. Her late husband, Reverend Moon, spent 2 years and 8 months in North Korean communist prison in Hungnam, finally escaping when UN forces under General Douglas MacArthur bombed the camp. Dr. Moon and her husband have been unwavering in their efforts against communism, which denies God and oppresses the faithful. I'd like to begin today by discussing China. For weeks now, the Chinese people have openly rejected the oppression of the Chinese Communist Party. Make no mistake about it. These are the most widespread and fervent protests the CCP has ever faced, at least since 1989. The bravery of the protesters today is inspiring to so many of us, and we should all do everything we can to support them. Now, the media has portrayed this movement as being about the regime's zero COVID policies. It's true, but it is only a small part of the story. Fundamentally, these protests are about freedom. The CCP's consistent action over the years and its response to these protests are about securing its permanent control and authority. While the communist regime may now claim to be lifting some of its zero COVID policies, the greater fight remains. You can be sure that its tactics, the CCP's tactics of censorship and brutal oppression, will remain. We've already seen them used in the concentration camps in Xinjiang, where millions of Uyghur Muslims suffer every single day. We've seen them used on Christians in China, be they Catholic or Protestant. And this will only get worse. Long after the final zero COVID policy is lifted, the CCP will continue to use its tools of oppression to crush religious freedom. We know this. We know this because faith in the Lord is communism's greatest enemy. Faith is beyond even the most repressive government's ability to push back against. It can't be destroyed by tyrannical fiat or communist persecution. Any government that denies religious freedom is destined to fall. This is why the Chinese Communist Party most hates and fears people of faith. Because, try as it might, the CCP will never have ultimate authority over the faithful. This holds true elsewhere in the world as well. Think of the leaders in Iran who won't so much as allow women the capacity to wear the clothes that they choose to wear, or to practice any faith. But that which is dictated by the regime is the only faith they are permitted. Think of Vladimir Putin, who claimed he was going to retake Ukraine on behalf of the Russian people. One of Putin's first steps was to turn the Russian Orthodox Church into a subservient arm of the state and to attack Ukraine's faith leaders if they did not follow suit. As a Secretary of State, I battle these adversaries every single day. To secure religious freedom, we must remain committed to engagement and dialogue, even with governments that don't have religious freedom. But every day, we must also stand together against the clear threats to this fundamental right. And there is no greater threat today than that which is posed by communism. We see this playing out in Japan as well, as Speaker Newt Gingrich wrote about recently. In the wake of the tragic assassination of my friend Prime Minister Abe, the Japanese Communist Party has been attacking the Unification Church. The JCP has alleged that the church is engaged in corruption and is a threat to society, and that it undermines Japan's interest. Nothing could be further from the truth. The church, founded by Reverend Moon, has long stood against communism and has always championed stronger ties between Japan, Korea, and the United States of America. If there is anything the Unification Church undermines, it indeed is communism. We should see the JCP's attack for exactly what it is, an attempt to undermine and weaken the vital U.S.-Japan alliance, while encouraging better relations between Japan and the Chinese Communist Party. None of us can allow this to happen. America and other free, democratic, and God-affirming nations must set the example. We must stand together against the threat communism poses, and we must never waver in this commitment. The surest way we can achieve this is by being steadfast champions of religious freedom and religious liberty. I am grateful. I'm grateful that this is the chief purpose of your summit. I encourage you all to keep up the fight. Thank you, and God bless you.
Next, there will be a keynote of the first session delivered by 4 speakers. Let me first introduce our keynote speakers to you. Sam Brownback, 5th Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, also served as a governor, the member of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. He especially contributed to promoting North Korean human rights as Ambassador of Religious Freedom. Special Envoy Jan Figel is a Slovak politician who served as European Commissioner and Minister of Transports, and especially committed to religious freedom and unity as Special Envoy for Religious Freedom. Susan Johnson Cook, third Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, was the first African American women religious leader to be appointed as Ambassador of Religious Freedom and has served as a pastor and academic in protecting religious freedom. Doug Bandow is a senior fellow at the Cato Institute, one of the top 3 think tanks in the U.S. focusing on diplomacy and civil freedom, and has served as a senior fellow of an Institute for Religious Freedom and International Religious Persecution. Please welcome our 4 keynote speakers with a big round of applause.
What we see around the world is that where communism is the form of government, there is no religious freedom. As a form of government, communism really oppresses and suppresses religious freedom and religious groups all over the world. I think it is critical for us to stand up to communism on the issue of human rights and religious freedom. And I want to make this point clear that I think this is one of the key factors and ways we have to stand up. We can stand up to people commercially, we can stand up to people militarily, but we need to stand up to people ideologically. We need to say this is a bad system for human existence. This doesn't allow the human person to really be able to thrive and to be able to pursue the things that they want to do. The ability to be able to practice your faith as you see fit peacefully is one of the hallmarks of real, true human dignity. Indeed, religious freedom is one of those rights that goes so deep within us because it's the right of the soul. It's your right to pick a faith or none at all. It's your right to pick however you're going to practice that faith and to be able to pass it on to your family or friends as you choose or you choose not to do. And this is a dignity that, in my belief, that was given to us from God that no government has a right to interfere with. And yet you see it centrally attacked by communist governments and communist regimes. And again, it's because of the factors that I said at the outset. This is really the only group of people that can stand up to a government, particularly a communist government. So what do we do? I mean, I think that's always what it comes down to. What do we do? Number one, we need to pronounce it. We need to say that communism is bad for people of faith. And we need to say that around the world. We need to go into Muslim countries and speak out that this is bad for Muslims because you can't practice your faith in a communist ideology and a communist system. We need to say that to Christian countries. We need to say this to people that are generally not persuaded by religion one way or the other. In a number of Western societies, that we need to say this because this is something that effectively can stand up for people's individual freedoms, is the broader freedoms. If you can stand up for people's religious freedom, it's a right that goes so deep within a person's soul, you can also stand up for their free speech, their right to organize, their right to a free press, their right to be able to be heard and to be associated with the people that they want to be associated with. Number two, we can stand up in the marketplace. I really think that these acts that have been passed recently, like the Xinjiang Forced Labor Protection Act, are important places for us to stand in the economic marketplace and say that we do not agree with this sort of oppression and suppression of faith, and we're going to disassociate our economy with places that do such a persecution. And that's what that Xinjiang Forced Labor Protection Act did. It really is protecting Muslims that were being persecuted in Xinjiang. And we need to really demand of our companies that they stand for human rights, and particularly ones like religious freedom that are so central, that they not enable a China to go to places all over the world and to invest because they're associated with Western companies or they're part of our supply chain that we ultimately are paying for. We, the Western consumer, are paying for. Chinese have figured out how to do the economy and be able to have a lot of money. They've figured out how to spread that to a number of countries around the world. They're now building up their military strength. And they have these technologies that are now available and used and being deployed in ways that a dictatorial regime has never dreamed possible in the past. They now have the ability to find and track you virtually anywhere, everywhere, all the time. And when they can digitize the money, then they'll be able to control that too, and you won't be able to buy or sell without the permission of the state. These things, unfortunately, are present technologies and are available, and many of which are being deployed. Now is the time to stand up to it. Now is the time to declare it and to fight against it before it gets bigger, before it gets tougher. Thanks, and God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of Freedom for All, victory over communism is possible. This victory is a precondition for a more humane 21st century. I have a name, Jan Figel, that previously belonged to my young uncle Jan, brother of my father. In his 26 years as a young teacher, opposing the totalitarian methods of the newly established non-democratic system, during one tragic night in 1953, he was eliminated by the secret service of Stalin in Czechoslovakia. This was the destiny of many dissidents, first of all people of faith. When I was born 7 years later, I have received uncle's name Jan, in memory of the missing person in our family, to remember the victim of state power. Communist regimes are based on violence and propaganda, on force and lies. It propagated social revolution through class struggle. According to Marx and his followers, religion is opium of masses. Formally, they recognize religious freedom, but in reality, they try to eliminate it from the public sphere. Under the communist system, a single state ideology replaces the plurality of religions and worldviews. Ladies and gentlemen, religious freedom is an absolutely central human right. It is a litmus test of all other human rights, because when this central right is abused, other rights are abused as well. Under communist regimes, religious freedom suffers the most. International law defines it as a freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, and freedom of religion. When these deepest dimensions of one's personal freedom are not respected, human dignity is disrespected. And the same applies to subsequent freedoms, such as freedom of expression, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, and so on. There is a nexus between dignity and religious freedom. A team of historians, led by Stephen Courtois in their Black Book of Communism, enumerates crimes of communism worldwide. Numbers of victims reach 85 million. This is the cruel, bloody account of Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, and other communist dictators. They were atheistic, secularist people attacking civilizational value of religion and faith in line with Marx, Engels, and Lenin. Communist ideology resulted in very oppressive regimes. People everywhere desire to live in freedom and dignity. It is our brotherly obligation to share our living hope with those who are discriminated against or persecuted by inhumane, violent, totalitarian regimes. Hope lies neither in an oppressive collectivism nor in unlimited, selfish individualism. Hope flourishes when the dignity of everyone, everywhere, is respected, where integral humanism prevails and brings justice and a common good to all. Dear friends, in my mind, my heart, and activities, I stand with the Universal Peace Federation in its struggle for justice and true religious freedom. I firmly stand with those freedom fighters who are convinced that victory over communism is possible and it is inevitable for a more humane 21st century. Thank you all for raising your voice in defense of the persecuted, the defenseless, and the voiceless.
Thank you very much for all of the speakers today. Since the assassination of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, I'd like to mention the media reports on Japan. Since the assassination, for 5 months from July to November, key Japanese newspapers released 4,238 reports, with mostly negative reports on Family Federation, as well as their advocacy groups. Including TV programs, the internet, and social media, that number more than doubles, showing a situation that reminds us of a witch hunt. There are specific left-wing journalists behind such phenomenon, and this unjust attack is a serious violation against followers and related members of the Family Federation. And the key force behind this is the Japanese Communist Party. Japan is currently experiencing radical instigations and provocations by communists who are taking advantage of the July 8 assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. On October 26, Communist Party Chairman Kazuo Shii called the scheme the final war against the Family Federation and the International Federation for Victory over Communism, and tweeted, "This time we will see to the end. I will do my best." The International Federation for Victory over Communism, or VOC, was founded on April 1, 1968 by Reverend Sun Myung-moon's initiative. At that time, Asian nations were under attack by international communism and were in unprecedented danger. Within Japan, too, the number of local governments led by the left increased. The Youth Communist League movements, in response to international communism, developed fiercely, and conflicts broke out everywhere, including at the University of Tokyo. This was just before the Communist Revolution. VOC is not anti-communism, it is victory over communism. To win over communism is to overcome with ideas and practices, and to realize a society that pursues such values, that is, a society of freedom and equality in which all mankind is united by the heart of brothers and sisters with God as their parent. The only political organization with an ideology system that criticized communist ideas and offered alternatives was VOC. Please welcome Chairman Tom McDavid with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and welcome to all friends of freedom and responsibility throughout the world, and especially here in Japan. I'm coming to you live from Tokyo. Since this past August, I've spent 40 days on the ground here in Japan and Taiwan, conducting research to open an Asian bureau for the Washington Times. My friends, it was in 1982, 40 years ago, at the height of the Cold War, when Washington had only one daily newspaper, that our founders, the late Reverend Sun Myung-moon and his beloved wife, Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon, stepped forward with a team of top American media professionals to launch the Washington Times. Now highly respected throughout the world, the Washington Times is a voice for freedom, family, and faith. We thank you, Mother Moon, for your foresight, your courage, your love of humanity. Thank you so much. This second Conference of Hope highlights freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. The lineup of speakers here today has been outstanding. These experts that represent a new front line in the modern-day clash of worldviews, one that supports the existence of God and one that denies the essential role of faith and spirituality in our lives. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was tragically assassinated on July 8th. Since then, regarding media coverage of the Family Federation in Japan, can anyone say that more than 20,000 media reports these past months have been impartial or respectful about this decades-old pro-freedom, non-violent, family-oriented public service religious organization? Not at all. I've seen it. I've witnessed it here. The dominant media in Japan has created a witch hunt environment based on a false narrative. I sincerely appeal to the citizens and the great people of Japan to be discerning in your consumption of biased media. Journalists, editors, publishers, fellow professionals in the media, we should be wise enough not to let themselves be used to spread sensationalism or untruths. Throughout the world, there's now a growing network of concerned citizens, leaders, and institutions who are realizing that Japan's news media is largely driving the social and political lynching of this global religious community. We call upon righteous people throughout the world, raise your voices to Japan's national leaders in support of fairness, accuracy, and human rights. As chairman of the Washington Times and a board member of the Washington Times Foundation, I'm proud to stand with the countless others for the highest ethics in journalism. These include media reporting that is truthful, impartial, fair, and accountable to the public. My friends, it's now an honor to introduce someone who understands media and its influence for good, and he's also witnessed how media can be used to create harm. Mr. Humphrey Hawksley is an award-winning author and foreign correspondent whose assignments with the BBC have taken him all over the world to cover various crises. He's had postings throughout Asia in Colombo, Delhi, Manila, Hong Kong, and Beijing, where he opened the first BBC television bureau. He's a best-selling author of future history political series, including Dragon Strike, Dragon Fire, and the Third World War, based on the political and military scenarios involving China and the Indo-Pacific now. His latest nonfiction book is Asian Waters, the struggle over Indo-Pacific and the challenge to America.
Let me hear the worshipers! Where's all of my praises? I want everybody around the world to put your hands together because all the praise belongs to God. Here we go. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Every praise is to our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory hallelujah is to our God. Every praise is to our God. Y'all got it now. Help us sing it. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Every praise is to our God. Come on, everybody, sing hallelujah to our God. Glory hallelujah is to our God. Come on, say every praise. Say every praise is to our God. Y'all know how we do it. Take it up. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Come on, say every praise. Every praise is to our God. I want everybody all over the world to sing hallelujah is due our God.